Well, there you have it. A lot of our yard is just grass with pine trees, and it's not that bad. But as you make it around to the backyard, you'll see we end up with quite a few leaves in the yard. And every spring I get to take the sweeper out and sweep it up. And that's what I'm fixing to do in a few minutes. So my name is Ben and you're watching the DIY Homefront. And that's what we'll be doing in this video. We're going to get the sweeper out and we're going to go ahead and sweep up the backyard. But it's a process and I'll take you through it. The first thing is I go around and pick up a bunch of sticks. The next thing to do is to get on the roof and blow everything off the roof. So that way once I got stuff cleaned off, I'm not getting it dirty again. There are certain areas of the roof that seem to collect a lot of debris. And I don't know how you guys do it. But at my house, if I put an 8-foot ladder right by the back deck, I can climb right up onto the roof. Well, I normally use my 40-volt cobalt battery operated blower. And it seems to do a pretty good job. It's a lot better on the roof than actually trying to sweep it with a broom. Well, thanks for tuning into the channel. Most of my videos for the month of April have to do with preparing for summer, and this is just one of those tasks. Well, the blower does an excellent job of cleaning out the gutters. I do not like to sit down at the edge of the roof and use my hands and pick everything out of the gutters, or for that matter, climb up on a ladder where everything you're pulling out of the gutter is going all over the ladder you're standing on. Well, the oak tree that's behind me keeps its leaves almost all winter long and then dumps them just before spring and then new leaves come out. And I normally try to wait to clean the gutters out until all the oak leaves have fallen out of the trees. It definitely makes a mess that you've got to clean up. One thing I do is I try to do it when it's been dry for at least a week. It is supposed to rain 2 days from now. So one reason why I'm trying to get it all done now is because if you wait for it to do it after the rain, you have a lot more of a mess to clean up. Well, this is the gutter that goes above the garage doors on the front side of that garage. And you can see all those oak leaves just seem to clog up this gutter until it's just completely full. And like I said, it's a lot easier to do this when it's been dry, because you don't have to worry about the blower blowing up a bunch of gunk or having a bunch of black gunk all over the driveway. So this house does not have continuous gutters all the way around it, just in certain areas, like by the breezeway, around the back deck, a little bit by the front door, and then above the garage door and above the garage door on the back side of the house. Well, this area of the roof is the area that I was pointing to when I was on the ground before I got up on the roof, and it seems to collect a lot of pine straw. As a matter of fact, everything on this side of the house seems to collect a lot of pine straw. Well, needless to say, there was a bunch of pine straw and leaves that I blew off the roof that are now on the ground ready to be swept up. Well, regardless of whether it's pine straw or leaves, I will take the blower and either blow them into the beds or blow them out onto the grass so that I can sweep them up with the sweeper. Alright, well, I've picked up sticks from the yard and they're burning in the fire that's in the background. I've been on the roof and got it all cleaned up. The next thing to do is for me to get my hand rake out and rake around all the beds that we have in the yard. That's where we're going to put all these leaves when we finish. But I like to rake around the beds because it just gives a good sharp outline and it makes it a lot easier with the sweeper, because there's that little sandy area. The wheels will like to get in that sandy area and then it doesn't want to pick up leaves anymore. Well, once I get done raking, I'll go find the blower and I will retrace my path and blow all the leaves away from the bed. Now, I don't want to imply that the way I do it is the way it has to be done. I'm just showing you the way I do it. Now, I really like this 40-volt cobalt blower, but I don't want you to get the wrong impression that it's a super tool. I have multiple batteries and I usually end up having one on the charger and one in the blower all the time, because I seem to drain those batteries pretty quick with the way I use it. Well, with the sun finally behind some clouds, you can sort of get an idea what it looks like. There's a nice crisp edge around all the beds. Now I will go along and I will also blow all the leaves and pine straw away from the fence line. And the reason why I do that is because in past years I've accidentally snagged one of those fence posts with a sweeper, and I just don't like doing that. So I try to make it so I don't have to get so close to the fence when I'm sweeping. Well, there's a couple of areas in the yard, especially along the fence line, that I have to rake by hand. And it's mainly due to the fact that I don't have the ability to turn the lawnmower around with a sweeper behind it. I guess it'd be like pulling a boat behind your truck. There are certain parking lots that you don't want to go into because there's just not enough room to maneuver your truck around with that boat behind it. But it only takes 1 year sweeping your yard and you'll figure out where the spots are that are hard to turn around and where you're going to have to rake manually. Alright, so now we have raked everywhere I can't get with the sweeper, and it's finally time to sweep all these leaves up out of the backyard. Now this is an Agri-Fab 42-inch lawn sweeper, model 450521, and I purchased this back in 2020, and it was just under $300 when I purchased it. Now every year it seems like I have to do a little bit of maintenance to at least one of my sweepers, and this year I got lucky and didn't need to. But I will leave a link at the end of this video that has last year's maintenance on the sweeper, so if you're curious about yours or you need to do some repairs, maybe that'll help out. At any rate, I have 2 sweepers because I want to start and stop this job in spring. So I have found that if I have a spare, usually I can get the job done and then order the parts after the fact. Now besides the gearing and the wheels that I have replaced, the only other part I'm having a hard time with is this hopper bin. I'm not sure what kind of vinyl or plastic the hopper is made out of, but each year it seems to get stiffer and stiffer or less flexible. And the first couple of years the Velcro held its eyes in place just fine, but it's getting to the point where I'm having a hard time keeping one side in place. I looked up the part number and then the price for this hopper bin. And last year it was $89, which is almost 1/3 the price of the machine. So I chose not to purchase it, and I think when it gets to the point where it's just unusable, I might replace the whole sweeper. Well, it doesn't take a whole lot of leaves or pine straw to be on the ground before that sweeper fills up and it's time to empty the hopper. But I have found all I have to do is just back up into one of the beds and dump it out, and I don't have any problems at all. Well, there's no set rule on how many times you're going to have to go over the same area to get all the leaves and pine straw up. You might have to go once, twice, 3 times, or even go at it from different directions before you feel like you've gotten all of the debris off of the ground. But you don't really notice it as much while you're doing it as you do when you see the before and the afters. Well, this section is behind my barn, and I try to rake the piles as I go. Well, this is the largest open area of the backyard and also has the best grass, and you can see it makes a difference here. But the most noticeable place you can tell is the before and after photos of where I have most of the leaves in the yard, and that's this area. Now if you've got a large yard like I have, it's just amazing what these sweepers can do. I imagine for every 10 minutes you spend on the lawnmower with the sweeper behind you, it would take you an hour with the rake by hand to get as many leaves up and off the ground. And that doesn't include the time that you would have to load them up into a wagon and take them someplace. With a sweeper you just decide where you want the leaves and you take them right there. Well, when this sweeper was new, it came with a metal handle that you use to dump the hopper, but I never cared for it. So what I've got is about a 10-foot long black nylon rope, and when it's time to empty it, I just pull the rope and it dumps the hopper. But we have a relatively big yard, and I normally end up doing the backyard one day and the front yard the next. So I started this afternoon probably around 3 or 4 o'clock, and it's getting later in the day. So let's take a look and see where we're going to leave off. Boy, and what a difference it does make. You end up going all winter long with the yard looking brown and bleak, and then all of a sudden you have the new leaves on the trees and you sweep the yard, and now you're starting to get green grass again. It just looks so nice. Alright, it is the next day and we're fixing to start sweeping the front, but just like the backyard, I went along the very edge with my rake and raked everything up to make a nice crisp edge. and then took the blower and blew everything away from it. Well, one downside to the front yard is the driveway and the fact that there's just a lot of sand in the front yard. And the sweeper does an excellent job of sweeping up sand and gravel, which means wherever the cars drive and it's mainly sand, I'm going to have to rake all that up, because if I try to sweep it, the sweeper's just going to get filled up with dirt, rocks, and sand. Well, I know all these secrets and tricks because of experience, and the first year I had the sweeper, there was a couple times I actually had to get off the lawnmower and use my two hands to empty the hopper out because it was too heavy to pull over my shoulder because it was full of dirt. Well, I don't know if this is a positive thing, but if you've got a really big yard like I do, you always can move around and make sure that you're working in the shade. Although sometimes I think I'd rather do a really small yard and just work a small amount of time in the sun and be done with it. Well, here I am, I'm back on the roof again looking down at the front yard, and pine straw is very different than leaves. Now the sweepers have these nylon bristles that actually brush onto the grass, and the grass needs to be a certain height or it just won't work, because if it's too high the blades just bog down and you end up dragging a sweeper behind you instead of picking anything up. Well, I have got lights on my lawnmower and I just keep working and working until it gets to the point where I just can't see anymore. But we start off the next day with the front yard being done, and we can move on to the last two sections that need to be finished up. And here you can see the left side of my house, now it's finished, and the right side of my house, and now it's finished. And here's one final last load that I'm dumping off before I put up the lawnmower and the sweeper. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times I end up having to do some kind of maintenance to these sweepers. And I didn't have to this year, but I'll leave a link at the end of this video, so that way if you want to see what I fixed last time, the common problems, you can watch that video and maybe that'll help you out. Well, the only thing I have left to do is put away piles. And there's actually quite a few of them through the yard. Now I don't do any yard work October, November, December, January, February, March. So April's when we start the yard work out. And the first thing I do is sweep the yard. Now I probably spent 2 hours on the lawnmower in total in this front portion. But I hope you can get an idea of how many piles there are. There's lots and lots of piles. And if you've ever raked by hand, that's a lot of work. And there's even more piles down there. Well, I don't know if you saw the moon up there, but it's turning out to be a pretty nice evening. Well, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, check out my playlist, and I'll see you in whatever video comes next.